The Torah functions as a compressed legal code, where specific phrasings dictate broad legal realities with mathematical precision. We find this precision at the end of Leviticus 15, in the concluding verses regarding the laws of the laZav, or severe biological impurity. Typically, the concluding verses of a legal chapter provide a straightforward summary of the rules established in the preceding text. Hahowever, placing verses 32 and 33 side by side reveals a structural anomaly. Verse 32 begins, Zat torat hazav, such is the ritual concerning one who has a discharge. Then, the very next verse repeats, the hazav et zovo, and concerning anyone who has a discharge. The text summarizes the exact same legal status twice in a row. In Talmudic jurisprudence, repetition is not a stylistic choice. It is a signal of distinct, hidden categories. Rashi provides the analysis necessary to distinguish between these two seemingly identical statements. He demonstrates that these verses constitute a three-tiered taxonomy, scaling legal severity to the frequency of biological events. We can map this system onto a logic table to see how the legal status shifts based on the text. Verse 32 occupies the first row of our analytical framework. Rashi explains that verse 32 applies exclusively to a man who experiences exactly one appearance of flux. He derives this from the end of the verse, which parallels this single sighting with the laws of standard seminal emission. Consequently, the individual's status is that of a Baal Keri, meaning the impurity lasts only until the evening. This initial tier requires no sacrificial atonement. Verse 33 moves the individual into a different legal category. Rashi identifies two distinct escalated levels of impurity within this second verse. The first escalated category is triggered by two appearances of flux. This requires a 7-day waiting period for purification, though it still carries no sacrificial requirement. The final category is triggered by 3 appearances. At this level, the individual must complete the 7-day wait and perform a mandatory sacrificial protocol. This protocol is detailed in verses 29 and 30, earlier in the chapter. On the 8th day, the individual brings 2 birds to the priest, one as a purification offering and the other as a burnt offering. Rashi's parsing reveals that what appeared to be a flat summary is actually a tiered system, where time and sacrifice increase alongside biological severity. While these tiers govern the individual's purification, the Torah also addresses the threat this state poses to the sanctuary. Verse 31 establishes the legal consequences of the entire impurity matrix. The verse uses the command vehizartem. This word is built from the root nun, zayin, resh. Rashi cites Isaiah and Genesis to show that this root specifically denotes strict separation. This creates a spatial requirement, a total quarantine between severe impurity and the tabernacle's footprint. This raises the question of what occurs if these two vectors intersect. The penalty clause in verse 31 states, "Lest they die by defiling my tabernacle." This refers to the legal concept of Karet, or spiritual excision. Rashi defines this penalty as Mitah, actual death at the hands of heaven. The priest's expiation on the 8th day neutralizes this threat, transitioning the individual from a state of mortal risk back to communal life. The single sighting in Tier 1 poses minimal danger, but the multi-sighting state in Tier 3 carries the potential to defile the sanctuary. Placing this warning immediately after the sacrificial laws confirms the direct relationship between the two. The system of separation is intended to protect the center of the camp from biological contamination. This system of separation functions as a spatial defense, preventing a collision between human biology and the divine presence. Integrating these concepts shows how the biological timeline and the spatial quarantine work in tandem. In Tier 1, a single occurrence triggers a brief local restriction that resolves by evening. Tiers 2 and 3 trigger a severe spatial quarantine and require specific sacrificial intervention. Verse 31 serves as the line that cannot be crossed, protecting the sacred center from the risks associated with the higher tiers. 2 lines of text contain the entire structure of this multi-layered framework. While modern perspectives often view biblical impurity as a binary state of clean or dirty, the legal code operates through these specific, escalating thresholds. This precise approach perfectly illustrates the classical rabbinic view of the Torah as an intricately, perfectly calibrated legal document. Rashi acts as a forensic accountant, identifying the legal distinctions hidden within the phrasing. The investigation into a textual repetition reveals a broader system governing the boundaries of the sanctuary. Biology, geography, and law are linked by these exact textual markers. Mastery of this jurisprudence lies in understanding how the smallest textual repetition sustains the entire legal structure of the sanctuary.